Part two. Take two.
Yeah, part two. Here we go. All right. All right.
I think the first section, part one, was really good. So you left off with, I think we were talking about colostrum, which is a very exciting subject.
hmm
And can you mention the name of the company again, where you get the colostrum?
Yeah, it's called Immune Tree,
Okay.
and yeah, I think that's a really good one. And then I was talking a little bit about IP6. That
Oh yeah, that's right.
yeah, so really for immune system protection, you spread it out between 3 or 4 times a day. You do usually 3,200 milligrams a day if you don't want to be sick, and if you have like a severe illness, that's when you would double it to 6,400 a day. But you would only do that for about a month, and then you can drop down to maybe 3,200 a day, but you still don't want to do it long term, because of the constipation it can cause and that kind of thing. And but
That sounds bad.
yeah, it's not good. But yeah, colostrum definitely you can do long term. You know, beta glucan you can do long term. Although with beta glucan, if you're going to do it long term, you can drop down to 500 milligrams a day just for protection. Um,
Okay.
but those are good ways to boost. A really quick way to boost your immune system too is vitamin C. You can do a high dose of vitamin C for about a week. At around 4 to 6 grams, or 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams. If you can afford it, the best thing to do is to go somewhere that does IV vitamin C.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's really the best, because it goes
Wow.
right into the bloodstream, and it instantly increases your hydrogen peroxide in the body, which kills off all types of diseases, as many
Right.
people know.
Okay.
So, the vitamin C that you take orally does a little bit for hydrogen peroxide, but it mostly works because it increases glutathione levels. And that's how vitamin C orally works. But you have to get to at least 3,000 to get to that level, and I recommend usually 4 to 6,000. Um,
What specific type of vitamin C would you recommend, Jason?
well, if you can afford it, a food vitamin C would be the best, such as one made by Health Force, for example. They make a vitamin C powder that's 100% food. It comes from the acerola berry, I believe, and it might also come from camu camu as well, which is another type of fruit that's very high in vitamin C naturally. But the food vitamin C's are best, and if you do that, they're more expensive. You don't have to take as much. You can take about half. So even 2,000 milligrams a day of like a food C is equivalent to like 6,000 milligrams of a synthetic C. So, because our synthetic Cs you only absorb about 30% of, whereas food it's usually around 90%. So
Okay.
you don't need as much. Plus, it has naturally occurring bioflavonoids in it anyway from the fruits that they get it from. Um, and I usually don't recommend synthetic things, but if you want it, if it's cheap, you can't afford much, just go get just a regular vitamin C, ascorbic acid, and just do it for a week and at like
Okay.
6,000 milligrams and then
I
stop.
have the little packets of like the emergency,
Yeah.
and so I put those in the water and drink it.
Yep. That's ascorbic acid, but you don't really want to do that all the time because again, it's a synthetic C, but it's ascorbic acid, but short term is fine. And then maybe switch to a food C and just do less of it, but every day to protect your immune system.
Okay. Is there anything else people should be thinking about when they're hearing different? Because there's a lot of misinformation going on through social media, especially
Mm-hmm.
about what's really happening and who's really dying and,
Mm-hmm.
where the virus came from and
Yeah.
what, like, first of all, what I wanted to ask you is number one, should people be doing this social distancing, this isolation type of thing? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I can't tell anyone to do anything against what the CDC recommends or the doctors recommend or anything like that. I will say that for myself, I see no reason to do social distancing because I believe that this pandemic, the so-called pandemic, is way, way, way worse than what they're telling us. And
You mean
also,
the what they're telling us is worse than what the actual situation
yes,
is? Yeah.
exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah, what they're telling us is way, way worse than what it actually is. Exactly. And so, the other thing when it comes to quote unquote social distancing is that, this particular virus is the reason that the experts will say that that you have to be a lot more careful with it than with the flu is because it travels a little bit farther, through the air, and it also stays in the air a little bit longer than the flu. So that's why they're advising with these things. So, if you sneeze, for example, or if you breathe, and you have the flu, it can travel about 3 feet in front of you, whereas COVID-19 can travel 6 feet in front of you. Also, the flu will stay, the flu virus, you breathe it out, stay in the air around 45 minutes, right? With COVID-19, they're saying it stays in the air, for at least a few hours. So that's why they're concerned. But if you're quote unquote social distancing, if you're 6 feet away from somebody, uh, you go to that area that they just were anyway, like right after or right around there, you're still breathing in what they just breathed out.
Right.
So that's why it really doesn't make sense. I believe there's another agenda for isolating people, but you know, but I mean that kind of goes into a whole nother conversation. But just from a spreading standpoint, I mean, you've got about, if you're in the US, you've got about a 1 in 5,000 chance of getting the virus right now. And even if you do get it, you got about a 1.5% chance of dying from it. And these are numbers from the CDC. And and of course you're way more likely to have a bad effect from it if you're elderly and you have an immune compromised system. So those are the majority of the people that are getting really bad results from the CO, which could be the flu. That's another story. But what they're saying that they have COVID-19, which the tests are now beginning to come in as far as the actual COVID-19 specific test, whereas before they were doing PCR tests, meaning that it's just a show of live virus in your body, but you could have any virus. So because they couldn't get all these COVID-19 tests out to people, out to hospitals, out to doctors. So when you hear that people in the U.S. were tested right when it came here, they weren't tested with the COVID-19 specific test. They were tested with the PCR test. Now they're starting to test people with COVID-19 specific tests. But in any event, if you're elderly and you have an immunocompromised system, then yes, you're going to be more likely to get really sick and possibly die from it. So there's not really that as big of a concern as what they're saying with this. So I personally don't worry about it. I you know I'm frustrated that I can't go out and do things right now and have fun and all this other stuff. I'm not the least bit concerned about it. I do what I can with the grocery shopping and all this other stuff, but just to get out, really, to tell you the truth, for no other reason, or take walks, hikes, that kind of thing. But yeah, the basic point is that I don't believe that this is anywhere near as bad as what they're saying it is. Um, I also believe that this was, created for a purpose and all that kind of stuff. Just the fact that this particular strain of coronavirus was patented, and obviously you cannot. Well, a lot of people don't know this. You cannot patent a natural product. So, meaning that this virus is not natural. Um,
Right.
viruses have a specific genetic code that they're not considered natural. So they need your cells to activate. They can't activate without attaching to a cell, whether it's an animal
Yeah.
cell or a human cell, right?
Right. Because they're not alive.
Exactly. So, and the other thing is coronavirus has been around for several years, not COVID-19, that was just created, but coronavirus, as a whole has been around forever. So some of these people testing positive, they could also be testing positive for a type of coronavirus that is not specifically COVID-19 also. So you have to keep that in mind too. COVID-19 is the only new version of, or new strain, I should say, of the coronavirus. So you got to take that into account. So these numbers we're hearing are definitely way off, and so I'm personally not concerned about this.
Yeah.
So
I don't either. The concern that I have is that people are losing their jobs.
yes.
People aren't able to work, and like the effect of them not being able to work, and who knows how long they're going to keep these lockdowns going and keep people from working, and that I think that's going to have more of a devastating effect on people than the actual virus. But that's just my interesting point of view.
No, it is. That's true. And not to get political, but that's exactly what Trump is worried about too. And he's trying to get all the businesses up and running ASAP. And he's listening to the so-called health experts, but he's also got his own take on it as far as he wants the country up and running ASAP, because he knows the economic effect is devastating. It already is, and it's going to just get more devastating. Like you said, people are losing their jobs. And I mean, the people that want people to be isolated for several months, I mean, let them pay the people that lost their jobs in. Let them give them the money. I mean,
yeah.
It's
what are you going to pay me to stay home?
Yeah, exactly. So, and those people that they're just ignorant. They don't understand that this is not as devastating as what they're saying. The ones that are saying, oh, we should self-quarantine for 3 months or 6 months. I mean, no, we should not. So, and just the path of the virus and the incubation period and how long a person is sick. So there's a lot of misinformation about that too, I've noticed. But basically the initial the initial results as far as that goes is, you could be sick 5 to 14 days before you have any symptoms of this COVID-19. So and then you could be sick for 2 to 3 weeks after that.
And then most people, if they're healthy already, are recovering. Isn't that true?
Yes, they are. Yeah. I mean, 98.5% of people completely recover as far as not dying from this so-called virus. But, the other thing too is that here's another thing you have to remember, that most of us, because the coronavirus as a whole has been around for so long, most of us have already been exposed to it since it's been around. So
that is a really, really important point.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really important point.
Yeah. So some of these tests a lot of these tests are false positives because of that, because we're already exposed. When do people go get tested? When they feel sick, right? So they could test positive for, let's say, the antibody of the coronavirus, but it doesn't mean they specifically have COVID-19, right? Because people have already been exposed to the coronavirus because it's been, as a whole, because it's been around for so long. So there's so many false positives being reported, especially with the DNA PCR test, or the DNA, not the DNA PCR, just the PCR test. DNA PCR is for HIV, but PCR test for showing, live virus of some kind in your system. You're already sick. You're going to get tested because you're sick. So of course you're going to have some kind of live virus in your system, right? Mm-hmm. Is it necessarily, COVID-19 or even the coronavirus? No, not necessarily. So you're getting a lot of false positives, and that's a big part of the issue with the reports of how many people are coming down with specifically COVID-19.
Right. And what's puzzling to me is they've never shut down businesses or stopped people from working over the flu before. And this whole shutdown of the economy is super scary to
It
me.
is. It is. The flu, yeah. And of course, of course you have, 100 times as many people getting the flu every year as
And
COVID-19
dying.
and dying. You've got a fairly close death rate. You have, from what they're reporting, less people die from the flu, but still, you've got not that much less. You're talking about 0.5% of people end up dying from the flu, but yeah, I mean, 100 times as many people get it. So it's each year. So, and it can be deadly, especially for elderly people. And so you're right. I mean, the flu spreads very fast too. The flu spreads, it's very easy to catch the flu from somebody. And again, their argument, the CDC's argument, is that COVID-19 stays in the air longer and it stretches out a little bit longer. That's why they say there's a difference between the two, and you have to be more careful with COVID-19. But again, I mean, when you're talking about actual numbers of how many people are getting it, and as opposed to, definitely getting it with all the false positives going on, and how many people are dying from what they say is COVID-19, when some of these people, I'm sure, are dying from other types of coronavirus or flu, things like that, then yeah, there's no reason it's not enough to quarantine. It's not enough to shut down the businesses, especially like you said, and like Trump said, the toll that it's taking on the economy. It's just, it's just horrible. And, and you can tell, at least I can't speak for everybody. I can tell when Trump's talking about this, that he thinks it's a bad idea to shut down the country, but he has to listen to the health experts, right? Otherwise he would get blasted more than he already does, right?
Yeah. They're already distracting everybody with his impeachment, so.
Yeah, and also with distractions, I'm speaking of distractions, while everybody's isolated in their home, that gives them a chance to bring in the National Guard under people's noses. That gives, and all these other things. And that's a whole nother conversation, but just based on what I feel is, the agenda behind this whole COVID-19 thing. But again, the bottom line is, if you want to boost your immune system, those are the things that you can do. And just, and that not to panic. And the other point is not to panic. Even if what they are saying is true, you still only have a 1 in 5,000 chance of getting this if you live in the U.S. So,
yeah, and I think we need to keep reminding people of that, because the panic and the fear is just, it's deafening.
Yeah, it is. It's really bad, and it's unfortunate to see how many people are misinformed and ignorant about this and what's really going on,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've had several people tell me, like, if I post something like, I'm just going to keep living my normal life, and they respond with, well, you're going to kill people. And I think that is really kind of, it's over the top.
And it's because they're listening to the news. They're listening to the media. And that's the problem. They're focusing all these numbers that the media says of people dying. What about all the people that have recovered? What about all the people that never got the virus,
Right.
So
yeah,
it's, so of course they're not going to mention any of that stuff because they want to scare people. And, that's just what the media does. And that's their job. And, and again, it's scripted, and I can prove that, what they say. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm very, very fortunate, because what I'm doing right now, I can work from home and am still getting paid. But I mean, I don't know how else to say it. If I lost my job, if they told me I couldn't work through this and didn't pay me, all hell would break loose. I mean, I would, there's no telling what I would do about that, because, I'm not going to have my survival taken away from me, my financial survival and livelihood taken away from me with something like this, where it's not even necessary to shut down all these businesses. It just isn't. And I'm surprised more and more people are not standing up and saying, hey, I need to survive. Open up my, allow my business to be opened again. Allow my job to be restored again ASAP. Otherwise, all hell's going to break loose. I mean, this is the time where a lot of people don't have savings. They don't have a month's worth of savings to live on. And they keep trying to get the stimulus thing going or whatever, and it's been turned down, unfortunately, a couple times, and hopefully it'll happen. And that'll help, but it's not going to give people enough money on all the money that they've lost from not having their job for this time. So it's, it's going to be helpful, but it's not going to restore. And so people should not put up with this, with having their survival taken away from them. It's absolutely insane.
Well, in my situation, I was working as a server on the beach, which is a tourist area. So they've closed all the beaches.
Yeah.
The restaurant I'm working for, they're staying open for takeout, but they've laid off all the servers because there's nobody coming anyway, and what do I do? I got to get another job. I have unemployment, but that's only half of what I normally make. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it depends on the state. In some states, you're not even going to be able to get unemployment. Nevada, no way, where I am right now. And if you do, it's going to take forever. So, nobody, especially during this time where there's, a layoff is considered a temporary layoff. Yeah, you're not going to get unemployment a lot of times. And even if you do, it's going to be way later when you're already on the street. I mean, it takes forever. And I know some states are good about it. Some states, you can apply and basically within a week you'll have unemployment. But I know Nevada's not like that where I am now, and a lot of states are not like that. So yeah. So it's just insane. You can't rely on stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that is very. We need to end on a positive note. So. First of all, is there anything else you want to say? I think people need to be reminded again of how to get in touch with you and your website and how to get in touch with you on Facebook.
Yeah, definitely. And, and the thing is I will always, even more so than I'm doing now, I'll always, people that see me, with clients that see me, as far as what's going on with their health and how they can heal. So I don't sugarcoat anything. And so I think that's a big difference between myself and a lot of other health practitioners out there, aside from the fact of all the research that I'm constantly doing, and will not suggest anything to anybody that I know is not going to work. That I don't know, or that I know is not going to work, I'm not going to suggest any of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, again, my website is, it's heal.info. So you can look at more info about me there. And my phone number's on there as well on the website. The name of my book is on there, what I do, how long I've been doing it, how I can help you. So I think it's pretty detailed. And so, yeah, I mean, and especially there's so much misinformation out there. And like you were talking about, and people come to me, as far as, hey, can I believe this? This is what somebody said about this. This is what somebody said about this. And I can tell you, based on the research that I've done and my own common sense and my own experience of having done this for so long, I can say, yeah, this is legit. This is not legit, that kind of thing. So I like to think I'm pretty different from other practitioners a person might see out there in those ways.
Yeah, I think you've got the experience, and with your continued research, the knowledge. So yeah, and I like an alternative approach myself. Even with my pet, even with my cat, I took her into the vet last week, and they wanted to give her steroids, and the first question was, is there any other alternative?
Mm-hmm.
than that. She had some itching and stuff like that. So I gave it to her for a couple of days, and she seems fine. And I didn't give her the whole thing, and I think she's fine. So
Yeah, exactly. Cool.
so I would just encourage people to always ask questions,
Yeah.
and trust their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to like lock yourself in your room. Go out in the sun, get like plenty of sunshine, vitamin D, connect with the earth, fresh air. Do whatever you can to stay happy, positive, stable, and calm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point of getting outside, because it's very important. We as humans are outside. We're meant to be outside. We're not meant to be inside. We're meant to be in the sun, like you said. We're meant to have vitamin D made for us by the sun, and that's very important also for your immune system, as well as hormonal balance and a whole host of other things. So yeah.
Do you think, in your experience as a hypnotherapist, do you think that hypnotherapy can also help people boost their immune system?
I do, because it's a lot of it, your immune system is in the mind. If you think you're sick, you're going to get sick. If you think you're well, you're going to be well. So definitely, if you're worried about being sick and you want to change your mindset to always believe that you're well, then yes, hypnotherapy can definitely help with that, because it starts in the mind. It really does.
Cool. Yeah. I think that's an important point to bring up. So.
Yeah.
I'm a hypnotherapist too, so.
I know. Congratulations. You just
thank you. Yeah, you can even hypnotize yourself as well.
You can.
To boost your immune system. There's so many possibilities.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Jason, you want to say anything else before we go?
I think that's pretty much it. I'm here to help people, and and give them the right information, and
good. Yeah.
And help them heal from whatever ails them. I mean, I've worked with pretty much every type of health issue anyone can imagine, because again, it's about the source. It's not about what they're diagnosed with. So many health issues come from the same source. There's very few sources that create any illness. So I look a little bit about what you have, but I also look at what the cause is and help you heal that way. Very
cool. Well, thanks for taking time to talk with me. And you're going to put this up on YouTube or?
Probably, yeah. Okay. I probably will.
I think if you put it up on YouTube and you share it to your Facebook page, then we can start sharing it from there.
Makes sense.
All right. Well, stay well, my friend. You're looking very healthy.
Well, thanks. So do you.
Thank you. Yay. Okay. I try my best.
All right, good.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.